Good afternoon, everybody. Maxime Bernier was on Dave Rubin. Part 1 is up at the Rubin Report. I'm not going to play any of it for you, but I enjoyed the interview. I thought it was good. At 10 minutes, they discuss why does Justin Trudeau want to keep supply management. At 20 minutes, Maxime Bernier says we won't spend $2.3 billion in other countries to fight climate change, which I liked. At 21 minutes, he says they start talking about media. At 24 minutes, he says the CBC must get money from their viewers first. At 28 minutes, he references Bill C-16 and says it's about free speech and we must fight. I'm fighting by being a politician. And like I said, I'm not going to play any of it for you, but the link is in the description and I encourage you to watch it. It is interesting. You can watch at 1.5 speed, and that's often the speed that I watch at. And it takes up less time. Also, makes you pay closer attention. Earlier today, I reported on this, and I want to dig into this a little bit because I hesitated to get into it because it would have taken me on a big tangent, and I didn't want to go off on a big tangent on an already long video. But this is about this, so I want to focus. These are Maxime Bernier's tweets at yesterday, 6:15 a.m., talking about the immigration policy and parents and grandparents. And I think there's stuff to peel apart within this. And I rushed it in my other video and I wanted to do it again. So here we go. I'm doing it again. Maxime Bernier says, quote, this is just another vote buying scheme for the Liberals with no economic benefit for Canada. I understand the wish of immigrants to reunite with older family members, but the first objective of our immigration policy should be to fulfill the economic needs of our country. And he's linking to Ahmed Hassan's thread that I looked at yesterday in another video. Number 2, he says, in particular, our immigration policy should answer the needs of sectors where there is a scarcity of manpower with specialized skills, and in more general terms, contribute to increasing the number of young workers in a society that is fast aging. 3, a People's Party of Canada government will lower immigration levels, but also put more emphasis on economic immigration, skilled workers fulfilling our manpower needs, and reduce the categories of family reunification and refugees. Okay, on its face, I like what this is saying. We are going to bring in people who benefit Canada in a tangible way, that is people who are paying taxes, right? Because that's the tangible way they benefit Canada, and not these other classes that actually take away from Canada, right? Now, that said, he was talking about economic migrants, and he specifically said, sorry, I misspoke. I said economic migrants. I meant to say economic immigrants. And he references skilled workers fulfilling our manpower needs and reduce the categories of family reunification. That is an interesting and crucial point to make, because if you're arguing that we need workers who have this skill set, and it doesn't matter where they come from, but they need to have this skill set, then that's one thing. If you're saying we are bringing 100,000 people from this region and we need jobs for them, make it happen, that's a different thing, right? So I think Maxime Bernier, from what I'm understanding, is talking about the first one, matching people with jobs. And this is winding the clock back to the Harper years, right? This is what he's talking about. What the People's Party's platform is 250,000 immigrants brought into Canada through, quote, extreme vetting, through our very rigid system that used to run pretty well. At least people weren't complaining about it under Harper, right? Well, and complaining about it, yes, people were complaining about it. Let me not misrepresent. There were people complaining on both sides. And Harper's government reduced the amount of exactly this class, parents and grandparents, and that caused problems with people who are trying to bring their parents in. But there are very clear reasons why not to bring parents and grandparents in. And you can see my other video on that. I don't want to rehash an entirely old argument, especially when the old argument is 2 days old. So it makes economic sense to continue the economic policy, especially when the whole reason that immigration became a thing in Canada was to fix this problem, right? The reason we have to have this amount of people is specifically to keep our tax base the size it is with all of the people who are retiring. Our population is too old to do all of the work that is required to keep our population. And that is the quagmire that the governments have left us in. There's no escaping that trap. There's no magic way out. It takes 18 years to grow a new Canadian, but you can import one in one. right? It doesn't take very long to just bring somebody here and say, now you're a Canadian, welcome. And now you pay taxes to Canada too. Thank you very much. Cheers. Your $50,000 salary is 34 or whatever, but 42% goes to us. Thanks. Right? So it benefits the government. It benefits the new Canadian. It's supposed to benefit old Canadians, but we've tipped the scales. And so that is the next step for government, to have the conversation honestly with the constituency and say, these are the consequences of the government's choices. Here's where we're at. This is the economic trap we set and we walked into enthusiastically, and now we're trying to set it again. We're doubling down. We need more immigrants. That's the conversation that needs to be had. But first, we need to stop the bleeding. And we can't stop the bleeding if we have a policy that's dismissed by everybody. And if you go in with a zero immigration policy, or if you say we need to put a pause on immigration to figure out what's happened, for reasons that are obvious, the media and Andrew Scheer's party, which is the Conservative Party, and Justin Trudeau's party, and Jagmeet Singh's party, every major federal party would laugh a federal party out of the room that seriously said no immigration, because of the trap we are walking into right now. Because of that, because our population is aging, because we don't have enough people to fill the jobs, right? That's the problem. So that's why Bernier is saying, he's refocusing. He's saying we need to bring in talent that will do the job. The whole reason we're bringing in immigrants is to do this job for Canada. That was the agreement. You get to be a Canadian citizen, which used to be a gold standard in the world, right? And in return, you pay Canadian taxes. Welcome to Canada, right? And now it's a license to pay for mass immigrants to stay in, or mass migrants, I don't want to conflate the term, I apologize, to stay in hotels for free and then take over hotels, which is another story that I'm not going to get to. So that's my peeling this back. I think this is, for a federal party that wants to be taken seriously, this is the only realistic play, because you can't argue with Harper's policies on immigration. They worked by and large. If your intention was economic, like to drive your economy and to keep the economy going and to maintain the tax base, all of those things were managed well partially through immigration under Stephen Harper's tenure. And proposing to go back to that cannot be laughed out of the room, because you just point at that and say, there you go. That's the proof is in the pudding. It's recent proof that this works, right? And from there, you can have a conversation. But without going this step, you don't get a chance of forming government. And even with this step, I've said a lot one way or the other. And I hope Max wins. Like, make no mistake, I'm biased, very clearly biased. But that there's a trap that we're in, and there is no good way. There's no easy way out. There's no easy way out. Here's another trap. 2 minutes of incredible Meng Wanzhou. I heard her name said, and I said, oh, wow, I'm saying it wrong. Shocker. But my goodness, Mr. Trudeau is in quite a quagmire. So 3 times in this report, they talk about how long the extradition could drag on and how bad this is for Canada. And I'm just going to let the hosts introduce it, and then we'll fast forward to the important parts where they talk about how terrible this is and how it's going to take forever to be wrapped up in Supreme Court if extradition goes through.
The dispute between China and the U.S., the two most powerful economies in the world, is getting even more heated tonight, with Canada still caught in the middle.
At the center of all the attention, that courthouse in downtown Vancouver and a multi-million-dollar home on the city's west side.
CTV's Ben Milger has our top story.
Okay, and we're going to just fast forward to 29 seconds here, and here's the lawyer. This is the $5 million house. Here's her $5 million house.
Side home.
If extradition proceeds, she should get comfortable in Vancouver, because it's going to require 3 years.
3 years. It's going to be 3 years. We'll fast forward to 56 seconds here. There you go. This is the charges.
Fraud, wire fraud, and conspiracy. And now Canada has until March 1st to decide if the U.S. has a strong enough case to warrant extradition.
The Justice Minister may look at everything and decide it's too politicized to continue.
The Justice Minister that Justin Trudeau just shuffled into Canada in the recent cabinet shuffle, moving out the old person who would have had the final say. Not politicized at all. Ha, what a joke. And then we'll fast forward to 140 here. The American elephant in the room talking about the size of the economies.
This case has put Canada between the large American elephant and the huge Chinese gorilla in terms of economic power. Canada gets crumbs out of this.
And Ben.
And I'll just fast forward to the end here. This is where he's talking about how long this could take in extradition. What happens if it's a no, she goes home. If a yes, well, it could last years and years and years.
In court on March the 6th. By then, we'll know if Canada has decided to go ahead with the extradition. If the answer is no, she'll be free to go. If the answer is yes, this is just the beginning of a court case that could drag on for years.
So does that sound like rule of law, or does that sound like we are going to tie this thing up? She's never going to the United States because this is going to be tied up for years. By the time she goes to the United States, Trump's not going to be president anymore. Right, guys? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Right, guys? Right, guys? Please let that happen. Please let that happen. I'm behaving as Justin Trudeau, right? That would be something that I wouldn't put past him, right? If you kick the can down the road long enough, the problem maybe goes away, or Donald Trump goes away, or, whatever. But I don't think it's going to work out. It's pretty incredible. The last story is Liberal MP Nicolas Lorio has finally resigned. This is kind of a weird story. He says long absent Liberal MP Lorio resigns. After months of back and forth and uncertainty about his political future, Liberal MP Nicolas Lorio has officially resigned as a member of Parliament. House of Commons Speaker Jeff Regan announced the vacancy in his seat just before question period on Tuesday, saying that the Quebec MP informed him earlier in the day. This comes after Lorio appeared in the House on Tuesday morning to deliver a winding speech that puzzled some on the Hill, because it was thought he might have announced his departure, but he did not officially inside the chamber. Instead, his remarks were in defense of his character, focusing on the NDP's call for a parliamentary investigation into his delayed resignation. Reached by CTV News for comment earlier Tuesday, Lorio deferred to his comments in the House. I scroll down. The outgoing Liberal MP first announced in the spring of 2018 that he would be leaving politics, citing family reasons, but never resigned his seat. He then said this past fall that he was taking time to contemplate his political future. As he was mulling his political career, Lorio hadn't been seen in his seat in the House of Commons, but he had been seen working in his capacity as a lawyer. Lorio had previously stated that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau approved his absence from the Hill to work on projects in his St. Michael, Quebec riding. Sorry, I've said that terribly. Asked about his departure, Liberal Whip Mark Holland said he was wished Lorio all the best and denied that he was pushed out of caucus, saying it was his decision alone to leave. Weird. Very strange turn of events for Lorio. And this Huawei case is a quagmire and a half for Mr. Trudeau. So thanks for watching, everybody. Check out the People's Party of Canada.ca and have a wonderful, wonderful evening.